The New York Times says that the Navy carrier's problems are tied to attacks on U.S. bases early in the war, and that the command facility that facilitates logistics resupply from Bahrain had to move to Diego Garcia, which was 2,200 miles away. This has led many ignorant commenters to make the claim that resupply to our naval fleet has to be flown in all the way from Diego Garcia. And this is just not how resupply is done. On top of that, Diego Garcia isn't our only port. We also have resupply out of Djibouti. And so I guess they failed to mention the backbone of the U.S. Navy, otherwise known as the Military Sealift Command. It is comprised of 125 ships that operate around the world out of these commands across the globe. And what the New York Times is talking about is how the command facility out of Bahrain, which was damaged in early attacks, had to move their operations. But what they don't talk about is basically the Military Sealift Command, where they are able to operate not just out of these headquarters commands, but they also operate out of ports like Djibouti and contracted ports around the world. There is a vast decentralized network of resupply that is managed by Military Sealift Command that none of you seem to know about or is ever talked about. And this is how our Navy is able to stay underway for long periods of time. They come along our aircraft carriers and our submarines and our destroyers, and they launch cables across to then hoist dry goods. They do mail, they do medical supplies, they do oils, they do fuel. This is how our Navy is able to sustain itself underway. And so when you have this situation that is largely generated by social media content about the USS Abraham Lincoln, the actual story of resupply and how they're able to stay out there for such long periods of time doesn't get talked about because it's boring, I guess, and not sensationalized. But what it should highlight to you is our contingency plans in the case of operations. And so it's not as if we operate under a rigid logistics structure that the moment you take out one of our nodes that somehow we are incapable of flexing and adapting. We absolutely have that built into the structure of our logistics. This is why the U.S. military is so dominant for so long, for such a long period of time, is that no other country, no other military can match these type of capabilities. And so, of course, the flexing will cause disruptions in supplies, but that's literally part of being in the military. You are told that these things can happen. Your deployments will get extended. You will be rationed food. Your mail might not get to you every week. But this is part of being in the military. And so if you've signed up for the military and weren't expecting this, well, then maybe you should end your contract and go back to being a civilian. That said, I still carry on my further argument that we do too many military exercises, that they could be tailored back, that we need a larger military force because the current structure of our fleet is too small to answer all of the global requirements, and it has been that way for many, many, many years, and it is time for a force redesign.